Morning glory and evening grace, America. I'm Hugh. It is one day after the conclusion of the first Israeli-U.S.-Iran war. And for no better person to talk to about this than former ambassador of Israel to the United States, Dr. Michael Oren, because not only is he a diplomat and a former deputy prime minister in Israel, he's a historian. Dr. Oren's been doing this with us for more than a decade, for which I'm grateful, but I have not yet heard him comment on the events of the last 3 days. Dr. Oren, as a historian, where does the last 12 days fit in terms of world historical events?
Well, good. It's been a decade. Boy, did we have gray hair
Yeah.
back then?
Yeah,
we we're at an historical inflection point. That's where we are. So looking backward, I'll say that never in the 77 years of Israel's existence has the United States joined openly with Israel in offensive operations, or in this case, counteroffensive operations. The United States has come to Israel's aid repeatedly in defensive capacities, taking down missiles, resupplying us, say, for example, during the Yom Kippur War, but never openly joined with us in countering a common enemy. And this is what happened this time. It's true. And certainly in this century, where the United States has been impeded by the trauma of Iraq and Afghanistan, before that of Vietnam, such a bold military move is quite a departure from longstanding American policy, one that has had far-reaching geopolitical global ramifications. I assure you, Hugh, there are people in Beijing who are thinking now we have to pause and think twice before we can consider taking Taiwan. Even Moscow.
So, Dr.
Moscow's
Oren,
response is very.
other than exhaustion, and I assume every Israeli who's been going to a shelter 3 times a night is exhausted for 2 weeks. Other than exhaustion, how do Israelis feel today?
Guarded. Listen, the day began with a flagrant violation by Iran of the ceasefire. 5 people were killed in Beersheba, including the most beautiful couple you can ever imagine, young people. And then when our jets took to the air to retaliate, the president called them back. And so on one hand, we are profoundly grateful for President Trump of what he's done and how he's really what he did was a game changer. This war could have gone on for many weeks longer. As I mentioned on this program before, it's a war of attrition to see which side cried uncle first. And we were paying a very high price, psychologically, socially, financially. And the president ended all that, ended it swiftly. And clearly, the Iranians cried uncle first, which is important. Now, the inflection point, looking forward, what happens from this point onward? And that's the crucial thing. If this is navigated successfully, everything in the Middle East can change. If Iran is totally neutralized, I don't care, who comes to negotiation Iran side, whether it's representative regime or another leadership in Iran, they have to forfeit. Iran's empire, no more support for terror regionally, no more support for terror nationally, no more supporting Hamas and Hezbollah, no more trying.
Have you faded out on us there, Michael?
Assassinate American leaders, no longer trying to. And once you do that, then you open the door to peace between Israel and Lebanon, peace between Israel and Syria, peace between Israel and Saudi Arabia, peace, who knows, maybe someday between Israel and Iran, and you have changed the entire region. You make it secure for us, secure for America, and secure for the world. Our fear today, and I gotta be honest with you, is that Iran has announced today that it's going to start rebuilding its nuclear facilities and replenishing its missile arsenals. And Israel and the United States have to be on the same page, Hugh. We have to be able to say, these are our red lines. You put a brick on Fordo, we're going to act. Or at least Israel will have the ability to act. If not, very quickly, we're going to find ourselves back pretty much where we were on October 7th, 2023. And it can go one of 2 ways. There are a few forks in the road, history's roads like this, and we're standing at that intersection.
Well, I'm hoping Iran is just blustering because the precedent has been set. Donald Trump has laid down the Trump doctrine. No one who is not currently in the club of nuclear powers may join, period. Let me ask you about best case and worst case. Best case, the poison tree that was pumping poison through its roots, through Lebanon, through Syria, through Gaza and the West Bank and Yemen and Iraq has been cut off, and those roots will wither, and everyone will sit under their fig and tree and be happy. Worst case, the mullahs have a hidden facility. They're going to enrich rapidly, and they're going to deliver an unconventional, not very sophisticated bomb to your border somehow. Which is more likely?
Either one. A lot of it depends on how America handles this. It really is. The decision is in the hands of the president of the United States. The Iranians, as far as I can see, Hugh, the Iranians still possess something in the order of 650 kilograms of highly enriched uranium, 20% and 60%. As long as that is not extracted and shipped abroad, then Iran essentially still has threshold capacity. Somewhere along, it's got a missile. It's got a missile that can carry a satellite into space. You can carry a satellite into space. You can carry a nuclear warhead. Somewhere, it has been developing a warhead. You put the enriched material in the warhead, put the warhead on the missile, and you are a nuclear power. Period. And that the United States and Israel have to prevent that. And to know that Iran is now going to get back into negotiations, it's going to try to drag its feet again. What President Trump did in setting a 60-day deadline was magnificent. He's the only person any president in recent memory, who's ever done anything remotely like that. Some people put military options on the table. He actually took it off the table and used it. And that has to continue. Only with a strong negotiated position, which is no enrichment, no nuclear facilities, no ballistic missiles, no warheads, and no support for terror, together, backed by a credible military option, will the Middle East be changed and changed irrevocably for the good.
And we would prefer if the Iranian people or some clique of colonels replace the mullahs, but I'm not going to hold my breath. Let me close this way. Assessed Prime Minister Netanyahu for 30 years has been after this program. He's had his haters. He's not unlike Donald Trump. There's Netanyahu derangement syndrome. He's had his people who think he walks on water. You're right there in the middle. You call balls and strikes. Michael, how do the Israelis feel about Netanyahu today?
Well, there's rumors here that he's going to call a snap election in the summer, because he knows that if he ran tomorrow, he'd win overwhelmingly. But Israeli election seasons are 3 months, and many things can happen in the next 3 months. If Israelis see that their lives have been profoundly changed by this military victory, it's a military victory, then he will win. And as I always say, and I say it again and again, it's always premature to eulogize him politically. He will come back. If Israelis feel that this entire war has been for naught, that Iran will simply come back and reconstitute its power and once again pose a strategic threat, not just a tactical threat to the state of Israel, then he will lose. It comes down to that. Losing for Netanyahu doesn't necessarily means he's chucked out of politics. He still has a very strong base, which is not going to change any bit. But still, he won't have the same power. If he runs tomorrow, he will be where Bibi always wants to be, which is in the center of his coalition. He wants to have ministers to the right of him and ministers to the left of him, like the Light Brigade, and charge forth. And
any intimations, by the way, any intimations out of Gaza that Hamas realizes the mothership has crashed and maybe they better make a deal in a hurry and get whatever they can get, including safe passage out of Gaza?
I don't think so. I have not received anything, and I do want to check, if you don't mind. I've just come in from an interview, and I heard something very disturbing in the interview, that a great number of Israeli soldiers were killed today in an ambush. And that would not indicate to me, if that's true, that a number of Israeli soldiers were killed in an ambush tonight. If that is true, and I'm looking just right now at my news, it hasn't, at least through news, they don't say these things until word has been given to parents, but everyone was talking about it tonight. If that's true, it's indicating that we are still in a very difficult military situation in Gaza, where now the Hamas is operating as a guerrilla force that comes out of tunnels. It shoots a bazooka or plants a mine, and goes away. And that's very, very painful. That's going to be very difficult nut to crack. Throughout this war, I've urged on Israeli television that we should be stepping on the gas, full pedal in Gaza right now. The world was not looking. And I don't know if we've done that exactly. We did find the bodies of some former hostages, expired hostages, let's say that, deceased hostages. That's not enough. We're not making a game changer. I hope so. A last word about Bibi, and I have to say this not as a contemporary analyst, but as an historian. And a line from my former memoir ally would say history is humbling because it reduces the issues we see as mountains to molehills. The big issues for Bibi have been ultra-Orthodox enlistment in the military, judicial reform. 50 years from now, no one's going to remember a thing about them. They will remember this. They will remember
And
this.
well done. They will remember this, and that it was well done and took courage.
He will go down.
Dr. Michael Oren on X, Dr. Michael Oren, former